Welcome, live stream viewers. I am so glad to see you. And I'm so glad the technology worked today because we've had a little trouble getting to you with Light Your Way to Health and Wellness in the last couple of weeks. Zoom and Facebook live stream have not seemed to want to be working together in as friendly a way as we normally hope for. But we're here today and here we go. And I'm so glad you're here. This is, of course, Light Your Way to Health and Wellness with Paula Shaw. And what I love about this show is it's my chance to share with you people, products, tools, techniques, those pieces of information and any processes that I can be really helpful to you in your journey to health and wellness. And I am very excited about the person I'm sharing with you today because he's one of my favorites. His name is Davide Di Giorgio, and he is going to be talking to us today about overcoming the stress and anxiety that result from what he calls comparanoia. Yes, isn't that a great word? Comparanoia. And he's going to teach us not only how to overcome that, but how to be unapologetic. David has a fabulous message, and I can't wait to share him with you. But first, I want to talk a little bit because this is a health and wellness show. You may notice that I've got 3 patches on my throat today. So sharing my truth, I wanted to let you know that yesterday, was it yesterday? Boy, I tell you, the days all flow together now. Yes, I believe it was yesterday. I started noticing a little sore throat. And of course, we all know now in the time of COVID, we don't want to get a sore throat because that can be one of the first initial signs of the virus. So I want to share with you what I have done because actually I'm feeling pretty great. And remember, I told you that my purpose on this show was to share products and tools and things with you that I use myself or have used myself. And so here's what I did yesterday. First thing, I showed you on another show a copper supplement that I take called copper glycinate. The one I take is made by a company called Pure, but I'm sure there are others out there. But David Schmidt, who is one of the smartest men I know, and also the creator of these LifeWave patches, David shared that viruses cannot live in the presence of copper, silver, or gold. So what I did was I took one of the little blue copper capsules, emptied the powder into a glass, and added hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide is also great for killing the virus. So I made a little gargle solution out of that. And I gargled with it at least 3 or 4 times yesterday. Now, it's not pleasant, but it's not terrible. It doesn't really taste that bad, but boy, when it goes in there, you can feel it killing whatever is going on. And so I did that several times. The other thing I swear by is, and I should have had all the props here with me today, but I've shared this with you in past shows too. By the way, if you want to see the past shows, they're all archived on YouTube. So all you need to do is go to my Change It Up radio channel and then just look for Light Your Way to Health and Wellness shows, and you will see the past ones. But there's something my doctor turned me on to called NeilMed, NeilMD. And it's a little plastic bottle with kind of a round lid on it. And you just put distilled water in it and a certain solution. It's like a salt solution. And you just squeeze that up into one side of your nose, hanging over the sink. It's not pretty, but it works. Hanging over the sink, and it just washes your sinuses and comes out the other side. And I read early on that it's very important to cleanse the nasal passages because that's where the virus lives until it then moves into other places and creates a lot of havoc. So I have been cleansing my sinuses with the Neomed system, gargling with hydrogen every day, hydrogen peroxide, and I add to it the copper supplement, which by the way, you can get on Amazon. It's very inexpensive. It's like $9. Get it immediately and have it in your cupboard just to be on the safe side, because I take it every day as well. Because like they say, virus can't live in the presence of these metals. So that's what I did. Now, what I'm wearing in terms of patches today, the center patch is the X39, which is the one we've talked about as being stem cell activating. And it does so many other things. It's anti-inflammatory, it improves your energy. It just does so many great things for the body, but it's a healer. It's a healer. Whenever I start feeling anything viral or any kind of illness, I mean, I wear it every day anyway, because it's anti-aging. It's the reason my collagen came back. But in addition, it really seems to be the right go-to if you feel anything coming on. On either side of it, I'm wearing glutathione patches. LifeWave also makes glutathione patches, and any of you that know anything about glutathione, it's so important. It's the body's master antioxidant, but it's very hard to come by, especially when you're 69 years of age, which I am for another few months. And one of the reasons COVID is hardest on elderly people is because they're low on glutathione and low on melatonin as usually, low on both. But these glutathione patches prompt your own body to create abundant amounts of glutathione, and that's a detoxifier. It's an antioxidant. So I promise this is the truth. I put these patches on this morning at about 8:30. So it's been 3 hours now, and the throat pain is almost gone. So, and I have absolutely no fear about catching this virus, because I have these patches and I have Eon, which is anti-inflammatory. I wear that one at night. So I kind of feel like that's my safety suit. That's my armor. And I guarantee you on Thursday, we'll be talking some more about my little journey through whatever this is that I have. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that by the end of today, I'm going to be feeling better. Actually, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that in about 30 seconds, I'm going to be feeling better, because I'm going to be introducing you to Davide Di Giorgio, who is one of my faves. Let me just find his bio here and tell you a little bit about this amazing guy. He is a speaker and international best-selling author of the book Being Unapologetic. He's a Gen Z advocate and founder and host of Unleash Your Story. He has done an amazing TED Talk. Look for that TED Talk. It's fabulous. And his talk is on overcoming comparanoia, a word I love that I can't wait for him to share with you. And this TED Talk is fueling a mission that David has to empower people, especially young people, to compare less, celebrate more, and spread kindness to all. Boy, if that isn't what we need right now, I don't know what is. So David, please come on and join us. Hello,
Hey,
David.
Paula. Great to see you.
Thank you. Always great to see you too. So I've prepped them. I told them about comparanoia and being unapologetic. And you know, David, it occurs to me, and one of the things I actually was going to share with everybody today is that stress and anxiety, they're not only unpleasant to experience, but in a time of a pandemic, we can't afford them, can we? Because they shut down the immune system. They cause all kinds of problems. So, and yet, David, we are a society that's into comparing, right? And one of my favorite lines is, comparison is the thief of all joy.
Yeah, and that's just the start of it.
That's just, I live that one on almost a daily basis. I'll catch myself. Something's really great and I'm excited, but then I think, oh, but so and so did
Right.
this, or maybe I should have done that way. So, talk to us a little bit about where did this comparanoia come from? Why are we all such victims of it?
I really believe that it is part of the natural state of humans. It's part of our human condition.
Oh,
And I think we have this desire to be to be liked, to
uh-huh.
fit in, and also on the flip side, part of the definition that I've created for comparanoia is the desire to be unlike others. And so you see,
Ah,
comparanoia also shows up in that, like what you just said, oh, but someone else already did it this way, so I need to do it a different way. I mean, certainly in entrepreneurship and in business, we talk all about like what's your niche and what's your unique selling proposition and what makes you different and the differentiator and all this stuff.
right.
But that again causes us to compare ourselves to these imaginary goals or benchmarks that we set that we can never actually achieve. And what's even worse, when you do achieve them, there's simply a void. You don't like, there's no, so you achieve the goal that you think that you've set, and then what? Where do you go? Like, do you have to just keep achieving? When does it stop?
Yeah. For some
So I
people,
think
I don't think it ever does.
exactly. And so I think it's just part of the natural human condition of what we desire to, like I said, just to feel like we are seen, heard, known, like we are acknowledge that we have a purpose. It's part of part of our food, part of our nutrition, I think, in life. And so unfortunately, what happens is sort of the negative side of it, which is what I've come to call comparanoia, which eats away at us.
Mm. And how young does it begin? Is it a high school thing? Is it when we're children, in the womb? When do we start?
I think it's a little bit different for everybody, but I know that most people could probably identify a moment when I say, and this is how, I came to trademark it and start to really talk about it and do the TED talk about it. Most people can identify a moment when I say the word comparanoia or an incident that they remember is like, oh, I remember when I started to see the outside world. Kids are happy go lucky and they'll pretty much do anything. Well, I remember when I was a kid, I was about 8 years old, I was at a wedding and I was the ring boy. So I was sitting at the head table and I remember seeing everybody get up what they were doing was the first dance. And I didn't understand. I had never been to a wedding before, so it was all completely foreign to me.
Uh-huh.
So I just wanted to fit in and not stick out and not make a mistake. Because, I mean, immigrant parents, I was under threat, like, don't embarrass us, but I didn't know what to do. So I remember my parents were sitting not too far away and I looked at them when everyone was getting up and I'm like, what's going on? And like, oh, it's the first dance. And I said, what does that mean? And like, well, you have to dance. And I'm like, well, I don't feel like dancing right now. And I'll never forget my dad said, you have to.
Wow.
And I shut down.
Ooh.
And I remember that for me at 8 was the first time that I sort of really started to realize there were a couple incidents before that, but that was when I really started to see the outside world as almost like there was pressure. And if I didn't fit in, there were going to be consequences. And
Mhm.
so for me, that's the first big incident of comparanoia for me.
You know what popped into my head just now? I was an elementary school teacher, and teachers often discipline by comparing one child to another, right? And usually you're the one who's acting out and you're being compared to the one who's doing it perfectly. And maybe you're acting out because you have ADD. Maybe you're acting out because your parents are fighting. Maybe you're acting out whatever. But immediately you find out real quickly what you're doing and what you're being isn't okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you for those people who listen to the TED Talk, there's a great story, my signature story, I guess you could say, in the beginning of the talk with my kindergarten girlfriends. It's a fun little story
Mhm.
where, again, that was sort of my first exposure to comparanoia because the teacher didn't mean to cause any harm,
Right. Of course.
but inadvertently they set me up for my lifetime of this journey of comparanoia because they compared me to what was standard to everybody else. And I started to learn, I'm like, oh, so that's different. And that's not a good thing necessarily. So yeah, teachers, what we say really matters. And you're right, kids do well if they can. And if they're not doing well or something is not what you might expect, there's something in their way. And so it's
Exactly.
important always to remember that. And same with adults.
So, what drove you to get into this work, David? Did you have your own trauma around comparanoia beside your kindergarten story?
Well, so I was severely bullied throughout my childhood, throughout
Mm.
school, all the way through high school. And so if you want to say that that is the trauma, for sure, that comes into play in a big way. And
Uh-huh.
what I started to realize is after I sometimes share this story, it's actually kind of funny how I came up with Comparanoia as sort of like the next extension of the book being unapologetic, because so I wrote the book being unapologetic, and when I would go and speak or go to events, people would say, "Oh, you've written a book," and they say, "What's it about?" And I always thought that was quite entertaining because I thought, well, I think the title is pretty self-explanatory. It's about being unapologetic. They're like, "Yeah, but what's it about?"
Right,
So
really.
I was like, okay. So I had to come up with a way to describe what it was about. And I started to use the word comparanoia. I said, well, it's about overcoming your comparanoia. And I could barely get the word out when people would stop me and say, oh my goodness, I have that. Or they would tell me a story, or they would share with me how they resonated with that. And so that's sort of how it came up. And I realized that truly it's my life's work. It's my experience of growing up. It's my experience of interacting with other people. It's my experience, when I immigrated from Canada to the US and
Mhm.
became solely an entrepreneur, and especially in the online space, is feeling like the pressure of like, how do you differentiate yourself when everybody else has already done it? And now, even with the pandemic, people are saying there's so much opportunity right now. Are you seizing the opportunity? And all these people, oh, who's growing their business? I'm growing my, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much pressure to fit in to what?
Oh, I relate totally.
Right. And yet we all know, especially with social media,
Mhm.
people are showing that snapshot, that perfect 1 second in time, or that ideal that they have. I mean, if we could fact check everything that was on social media, life would be very, very different.
A lot of fake news, right?
There's a lot of fake news going on. And again, people don't mean to do it maliciously. And a lot of it, people are manifesting and they want to show the best side. They want to be positive and uplifting and all this stuff. But you don't realize that with you not being real, you are part of the problem.
Yes, yes. All right. So we've got a society of comparanoiacs.
Yeah.
That's my
Comparanoid
one W.
people. Yeah.
Yep. And so, what do you do if you're one of them?
So I wanted to come up with a way that was very simple, and it's that's not the right way to say it, because I discovered over time what actually helped people to overcome what I've now come to call comparanoia.
Mhm.
And I discovered it quite simply when I was a teacher. I was the head of a high school music department for many years. And I started to do little experiments with students because I was noticing that they weren't necessarily excelling in music. And I thought, how am I going to get through to them? And through year after year, I tried different things. And what I started to discover was the more that you let someone know that they are seen and heard, that they're known, that you acknowledge them, that you celebrate them, the more somebody feels celebrated for exactly who they are,
Mhm.
the more they start to excel and grow and achieve and in every area.
Mhm.
So the one story that I tell, I did another talk about this that people can find online, is about I taught my kids how to tell stories, and those kids that I spend more time teaching storytelling became better musicians faster. What's
Oh,
the
wow.
connection? Well, it's self-expression, it's confidence, it's self-esteem, it's feeling seen and heard.
Yes.
And so I then started to experiment in multiple different ways with multiple different groups and ages. And what it came down to is celebration.
Mhm.
Now, and I say to my TED Talk and whenever I speak, I don't know about you, but growing up in an immigrant household, celebration was reserved for the most special occasions. Birthdays, and you
Yes.
better smile or else for the
Uh-huh.
pictures,
Mhm.
right? Graduation, maybe. if you did really well.
Right.
And then I started asking people, like, what was celebration for you, Paula, growing up? Like, what did that look like?
Oh, definitely when I behaved well,
Right.
birthdays for sure.
Mhm.
If I achieved something
Mhm.
or somehow was acknowledged by
Right.
others. Yeah.
And so I started to think, but wait a minute, why do we have to wait? Why does celebration have to be at the end of an equation? Why does
Mhm.
it have to be after the equal sign? X plus Y equals celebration. What if we flipped it around and there was an opportunity to celebrate everything all the time? Now, this caused me to have to redefine celebration.
Uh-huh.
So, celebration doesn't only have to be birthdays and achievements and graduation and whatever, it could be any number of things. And it could be acknowledging something. Doesn't mean that it could be acknowledging something that you failed at and celebrating that and
Ah.
just acknowledging it. It
Mm.
could be my favorite, Joseph McClendon, one of Tony Robbins' top trainers. He calls it astitude, which is simply to shake your bottom because it is
Asked.
physically impossible
Hmm.
not to change the way you feel when you do that.
Ah, interesting.
So you're just changing, and it's not only just thinking positive, because like I said, what if something bad happens? Well, we all know that when something bad happens or
Mm.
something that isn't good, there's learnings in that often.
Absolutely.
There's more information when something doesn't go exactly the way you want it than when something goes perfectly and you can't even describe what happened. You're just, oh, well, that was lucky. Really, was it? Or were you in full alignment? Or, there's so many other factors. So if you're able to identify moments to celebrate, in quotes, whatever that is, whether it's acknowledging, whether you're shaking your behind, whether you're giving yourself a pat on the back, whether you're waking up in the morning saying, I appreciate you, I thank you, I love you, I celebrate you into the mirror. At the end of the day, you look over the things that you've done and you say, it was a good day, whether it's praying, whether it's doing something that you love,
Mhm.
enjoying the food that you put into your mouth. I'm actually doing another podcast later this week with a woman who is absolutely extraordinary. And she, like so many people, struggle sometime with weight through their life. And the shift for her with celebration started to be, because we had this conversation, what if every time I put whatever I want in my mouth, whatever, because people start to shame themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Oh gosh, I had that other French fry, I shouldn't have had it. What if you just celebrated it and you
Mhm.
loved everything that you put in your mouth?
Yes.
And she started to notice, no longer did she have to be on plans and counting calories or all of that. She just started to love everything she put in her mouth. And then she started to identify, I'm not going to love that if I eat that now. So
Mhm.
I'm not going to have it. I'm only going to eat what I love, what I'm absolutely going to just enjoy in pure ecstasy. Right. And so that changed everything for her. So celebration is a very powerful and simple
Mm.
tool. Like I said, just to circle back, I wanted this to be simple as Mel Robbins' 5-second rule, because it's so easy. Okay. When in doubt, count down from 5 and just go do it anyway. Well,
Mhm.
that's easy. Well, so is celebration. When in doubt, celebrate. Okay, what can I celebrate right now? Great, we've moved on,
Mhm.
which instantly interrupts the cycle of comparanoia and takes you out of those unresourceful feelings. And instead, you start to think of solutions. You
Mhm.
start to think of, well, this works, so I want more of that, because it's like a magnet, right? What you think upon expands. And so if you think about things that you want, you get more of what you want. You
Right.
think of the things that you don't want. Like you said, with your patches, you've got your superwoman suit on, you've got your protection gear on, and
Mhm.
so you're thinking about healing. You're
Right.
not thinking about getting sick. You're
Good.
thinking about, I'm already getting better.
Yep.
And that
And
makes a difference. That's celebration.
it's so, and what I love about it is, I look at everything from the perspective of energy because I use a lot of energy psychology tools in my work. And when you move from uh, shoulding on yourself, criticizing yourself, to celebrating, think about the vibration of the energy. It goes from low and slow and dense to a beautiful high vibration energy. And most of the things we really want in life, most of the experiences we want to have, are high vibration.
Right.
But if we're down here, we're not a match for that experience. So I love it. It's like your celebration is like a little elevator that takes you up to the level of the vibration that you really
Yes.
want.
Well,
And now,
and the truth of the matter is, and I just want to add to that,
yeah,
the truth of the matter is, and I talk about this in the book, I say it in my TED Talk, I speak about it all the time. We arrived with celebration.
yes,
The
yes.
fact that we exist in it of itself is a celebration and a miracle and a wonder, no matter which way you look at it.
Mhm.
And so that means if that's true, and your viewers can decide for themselves, I believe through my own experiences of life that we have a vibration that is inherently high. We'll just call it a high vibration or a certain vibration. When we're not in that celebration, when we're in comparanoia, we are out of alignment with our natural vibration.
Yes.
Not good enough. I can't. I
Yeah.
don't know how. I don't. Walt Disney sure didn't know how.
Good
Dolly Parton didn't know how. Jesus
point.
didn't know how. Elon Musk doesn't know how he's going to make it to Mars. It's irrelevant. Ford didn't know how he was going to create the V8 engine. It's irrelevant. How is irrelevant?
Oh, I love that
The
statement. Say it one more
vibration,
time. How
right?
is irrelevant?
Yeah, how is irrelevant? And it's none of your business, right? Frankly. But if you understand, like we arrived a certain way, I arrived into this world, first line of my book, life begins with celebration. And so if life begins with celebration, then as I say, like I'm on this mission to make sure that you exit this world and you continue through this world with celebration all the way through, because that is more honoring your true blueprint, your map. It honors you. And if you're honoring you and you're in alignment, well, then, and this isn't, I mean, sure, if you want it to be woo woo, great, whatever. I'm just saying, I've experimented with this with so many people of all different ages across multiple different industries that there is no denying it.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to understand it, you just have to celebrate.
Mhm. So tell me, how do we tie in being unapologetic? Is that but not needing an excuse to celebrate, or how do you tie that in?
That's a beautiful way to put it. That's exactly. And it's whatever you want. So, this is one of the things that I wanted to really stand for with my book. I don't want to tell people what unapologetic is.
Ah,
What does it mean to you? If it means empowerment for you, then you be empowered. If it means that you stop apologizing for who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, then do that. As long as it comes from a place of goodness and authenticity. I'm not talking about being unapologetic. This is not middle finger unapologetic, right?
yeah.
It's not an away from for those people who understand psychology. We want this to be a towards being unapologetic to being you.
Mm.
What if you could apologize just a little bit less? Diminish yourself just a little bit less so that you could expand into who you are more.
Mm.
What becomes possible? And that in and of itself is a celebration and being unapologetic.
Ah, I so love that. And I so see how it sets people up for success. Particularly, I know, David, you do a lot of work with teens. And at that age, it's all about comparanoia because everybody wants to fit in, which means looking like everybody else, being like everybody else, not standing out. What I hear when I hear be unapologetic is go ahead and stand the hell out. If that's who you are, whatever your gifts are, roll with them, take them and go as far as you want to go. And I love that message for people of all ages. But
Yeah,
for
and we've talked about it before too, right, Paula, where um it doesn't matter, like it's agnostic to age or agnostic to, like, just be you. Other people, the most successful people in the world, the people that you probably idolize or follow or feel like should be your mentor, they didn't fit in. They weren't wallflowers, they weren't wallpaper.
right.
They stick
Right.
out unapologetically. So
Mhm.
where did we get this idea that we should fit in?
Yeah.
Right? It makes no
Right.
sense.
Right. And what's true when you really think about it, I mean, we're herding mammals. Humans are herding mammals.
Yes.
And so on the one hand, we want to be part of the herd, but somebody's got to lead the herd too. And your chances of getting to do what you want to do are a little more likely if you're leading and not trying to follow and fit in.
Exactly.
So, oh my God, I could talk to you for hours about this, David. I wish we had an all-day retreat we were working in. But I am so grateful to you for coming on Light Your Way to Health and Wellness and sharing this beautiful, beautiful work that you do with my listeners. And I just want to say to everybody, share this show because we all know somebody who needs to hear this message. And this show will be here on my Paula Shaw Facebook page and also will be archived on YouTube on the Change It Up radio channel. So David Di Giorgio, remember that name. He is an amazing guy and he's my friend and I'm so grateful.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you,
so much
thank
for
you,
having me.
thank you. Always my pleasure. And thank you all for joining us. And please share this show, tell your friends about it, and come back. I will see you on Thursday for another episode of Light Your Way to Health and Wellness. Bye bye. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Paula.